Okay, we're live. I know it looks like we just scheduled this at the last minute, but we've been planning on doing it since yesterday, and I just threw it up on YouTube at the last minute. And so one of the reasons we're doing this special Friday night AMA with Mark is because people have been astounded at the fact that Mark works in the AV industry and consistently has such horrible AV on our interviews, and we are debuting Mark's brand new setup, his brand new location, hardwired internet. Look at that lighting. Say something, Mark.
Thanks for having me. Yes, it does look a lot better.
Yeah, now my camera is going to be jiggling all over the place tonight. Anyhow, your setup looks fantastic, and
thank you.
And everyone will hear how great that audio is as we go. We're both hardwired to the internet, multi-100 megabyte upload downloads working. So if something goes wrong tonight, I completely blame StreamYard. But I think we're going to be fine. So Mark, let's start it off with a question here. So it has to do with L. Ron Hubbard being a science fiction writer. God, my camera's just bouncing all over the place. Okay, L. Ron Hubbard being a science fiction writer. Does the fact that people know he has this reputation as being one of the most prolific science fiction or fantasy writers of all time, does that make it harder for people to get interested in Scientology?
Yeah, well, I think I've heard that same question. I think Joe Rogan's brought up that question before when he interviews people. But in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard used the fact that he wrote science fiction. It's sort of an excuse. The reason he was able to remember all those things was that he lived those things. Like, those aren't fiction, those are reality. And he borrowed from those experiences that he remembered, that he recalled from millions and millions of years ago and trillions of years ago. And so Scientologists think that that proves that he can remember all these lifetimes ago because he remembered all these science fiction stories in excruciating detail. And really, he was just a giant bullshitter.
Yeah. Uh-oh, someone's talking some serious smack in the chat here. We're going to have to address this. Now, what? Aaron needs to upgrade his setup. But here's what you don't know. I'm literally in the middle of upgrading my setup, although not my audio or video. My audio is very good. My video is very good. I'm in a whole new recording space right now. You might notice I'm half pallets, half black paint. It's why I also look like I have like measles or something right now. I've been wearing a hat all day. I've been sweating all day. I've been working on this pallet wood wall. So I am in the middle of an upgrade, but it's a space upgrade. So I'm sorry, I couldn't let that one slide. I had to address that. But Mark, there was something I've mentioned that that one of the books I read that was a real eye-opener on my way out of Scientology was Russell Miller's Barefaced Messiah. And this was the unauthorized biography of L. Ron Hubbard. And I've also commented that one of the things that struck me reading this book, because I only read it like a year ago, was how charitable and fair it actually is to L. Ron Hubbard. And he mentions in the book, his whole era of his life where he was writing a lot of Western and fantasy and science fiction. And even Russell Miller does kind of reinforce isn't the right word. He doesn't debunk it. He kind of reiterates,
kind of backs it up
as if it's true that Hubbard had an unbelievable output and was known to sit down and write a book from beginning to end. And so it's funny because you'd think that would be just sort of the BS part of the story that Scientology made up. And yet he did actually have that ability. And it's something that Scientologists do hang on to go, yeah, of course he did. He remembered his last 76 trillion years. He didn't have to think of plot lines. He didn't need character development. He was talking about his friends, his experiences.
Yeah.
And so whenever Joe Rogan brings up the science fiction, like the fact that he wrote so much fantasy, it's really fantasy more than it is science fiction.
Yeah,
he mentions that, like, how could anybody believe that after writing all of that BS, Scientology's, oh yeah, that's the true part.
Yeah, exactly. That is the funny thing, is like, when you're in it, you think, oh yeah, he remembered all this stuff. And then as soon as you leave, you're like, yeah, of course. He just wrote a whole bunch more science fiction or fantasy and then called it Scientology. That's the reality at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right, let's see. You guys are going to have to help us along with the questions in the chat. And I'm going to keep an eye out here.
I'm looking now. So I have got all these windows now. So I've got a chat
well,
window.
Here's one I just saw. Would Scientology have advised Elizabeth Moss against doing Handmaid's Tale in a similar way to when Travolta was advised against Pulp Fiction? Any other celebrities in Scientology this happened with? Go ahead, Mark. What's your opinion on this?
I don't think they would. I know Jenna Elfman played a role on a show called Shameless that was definitely they would not recommend she play, but she played it anyway. So I think it's funny that Travolta's story is funny because Mike Rinder is the one who told him he shouldn't do it. So don't listen to, if you get offered a movie role, Aaron, do not ask Mike for advice.
Oh my goodness. It always rubs me the wrong way when people make a big deal about Elizabeth Moss playing this role in Handmaid's Tale. Like, other than they want to draw the comparison to, who's interrupting the chat? Oh my gosh.
It's Grayson. I'm in the middle. What? Thanks. Okay.
All right. I'm glad the waters were put away in the refrigerator. So let's
is what it was. You heard that?
Well, I only knew because you'd asked him earlier.
Oh.
Okay. Let's talk about this for a second. In The Handmaid's Tale.
I've never seen this show, by the way. I've never seen one episode.
Then the conversation is not going to make a lot of sense.
No, I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Moss at all anyway. I went to school with her when she was a little tiny girl, and so I have preconceived ideas about her. And also, Handmaid's Tale's not my kind of show, so I ain't watching it. Whether she's on it or not.
But how would you know if you haven't seen it?
Well, based off of how would you know any show until you watch it?
That's my point.
I know Blue's Clues. Have you ever seen Blue's Clues?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm not watching that. I know all about it, but I'm not watching it.
Okay, so I've never seen Mad Men. I'm not necessarily a fan of Elizabeth Moss.
I've never seen Mad Men either.
So I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Moss because I just couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get into Mad Men. The first season of Handmaid's Tale I thought was phenomenal. And something about the second season just lost me in the first few episodes. I was like, I think it's because I couldn't remember everything that happened in the first season. Okay, so then we'll move on off the Handmaid's Tale since you haven't seen the show.
You got to see that. Sarah Forbear is that's a great question.
Well, how far back is it?
It's right there. It's like 10 from the bottom. Sarah Forbear. You see it?
How much money would it take for both of you to do a Marty? I don't know. 100 million? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Mark's like 100 million. How about 100,000?
No, I wouldn't do it for 100. I wouldn't do it for 100,000. It would definitely have to be in the millions of millions. But the best part is that really they just paid Marty to shut up, like to quit talking. So everything that he had said up until that point was still up. And then he started doing these videos that basically contradicted everything that he'd said before, which is still up. That's the thing that I've never been able to make sense of, is they told him, you've got to do a bunch more videos about all these people, but don't take down the videos that you already did. We're going to leave those up.
So I asked Mike Rinder about that, and his opinion is that if he had took down everything he had put up priorly, it would just be too obvious, and the lawyers would,
You don't think it's obvious already?
Well, it's obvious, but then you have that other thing that brings a reasonable doubt of like, but if he'd taken money from Scientology, wouldn't they have made him take down the other stuff? And so the theory is that they did that just to prove
that they didn't pay him,
to create doubt.
Yeah,
in a legal sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just now you can't, in my mind, because he says it both sides of this. If he's literally on polar opposites of the argument.
Yeah.
that you can't take either one seriously now. Because he
Yeah.
said, these people are awesome and these people are horrible, and these people are horrible and these people are awesome. And now he's flipped. So you've got him saying both. You've got him talking shit about us, and then you also have him talking shit about Scientology. So it's like, dude, you're there. Who don't like, you've lived with only these people. Who don't you think is bad?
Exactly. The thing about this question, it's fun to joke about it theoretically, but it's like, when you let's say the number was 20 million, it's like, for the rest of my life, I would be able to earn 20 million most likely. So it's like, why would I take 20 million now to not only screw over all my friends, but also not to do the things that I enjoy, which is, doing like this YouTube channel is something that I enjoy. It's like, at a certain point, you have to think of quality of life over dollars in the bank. Dollars in the bank doesn't equal quality of life. It helps at the lower levels, but beyond a certain threshold, it doesn't really matter. And so the truth is, it's fun to joke about, but there really probably isn't a price, because you and I are both capable of making a good living, and we enjoy what we're doing now. And, like, okay, if it were $1 billion, I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't take it no matter what, just because it's dirty money. But it's people's money. The whole purpose we're doing this is so they stop ripping people off and stop destroying families. So I'm not going to take the money that they're stealing from people. I'm not going to take that to not talk about them stealing money from people.
Yeah, I'd probably just do a video.
It's like a circular argument.
Exactly. I'd just do a video about them having made the offer, and I'd probably.
That's what we did when we were doing the lawsuit. They said, I think when the lawsuit basically got dismissed, they didn't win, we didn't win. It just was like, okay, it's dismissed, it's out, it's done. So either way, we lost. But we had to pay like, I want to say it's about $50,000 worth of like legal fees, depositions, printing, filing, all these fees we had to pay. They were like, we'll let this $50K go if you turn over the rights to our book. Basically, pull a Marty. For $50K, they wanted me to pull a Marty.
Oh, man.
And the funniest thing about that, we have the letter, but the funniest thing about that letter was, who they wanted us to get? The person they wanted the most info on was Marty. They were like, the first person, you need to give us all correspondence related to Marty Rathbun. And I was like, what? I talked to Marty, but not that much. But I was like, $50K. I'm going to make more on the book, because they wanted me to turn over all the rights to my book as well.
Wow.
So, but, by the way, I have a YouTube channel now.
Oh, yeah. Here, we'll come back to this question in a momento.
So if you guys, when you're done watching this video, you got to go over to my channel and you got to subscribe. And then I'm not a maniac. I'm not going to do a video every day like Aaron does, or I think he did like 4 or 5 the other day. Oh my goodness. But I'll do like one every few weeks, or, every few days maybe.
Do you know what we could do, Mark? Do you know one thing we could do?
We have a ton of good stuff lined up.
I use StreamYard for the most part, but there is another platform called Restream. When we do our Mondays with Mark, we could stream it to my channel and your channel simultaneously, and you could have, you could just one thing you could do to build up your library.
That's pretty good. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this shaking camera thing's not going to work out. So that's just one example, because
we should definitely do that.
You already take the time to do that with me. You might as well also stream it onto your channel. Yeah. So definitely go over and check out Blown for Good. There's some special Easter eggs over there. Are those videos? Are there some public videos over there, or you have them marked private or something?
No, they're marked private again. They disappeared.
You dirty dog. You dirty dog.
So you think I should put it up? You think I should put it up?
I mean,
I'll put it up.
There's no real huge benefit to not putting it up.
I'll put it up.
You can always do videos later highlighting them. You can do, Yeah, Mark's got some special Tom Cruise Easter egg videos over on his Blown for Good
It's just
channel.
one now. It's just
You
one
got to
video.
check it out. Oh, you put them together?
I cut it together so that it would, yeah, I cut it together so it would just be, it didn't really make sense. It was 2 videos. That's how I got it. So I basically cut them together. So, okay, here we go. Well, I'll just tell you what it is. I mean, instant premiere. Sure.
No, don't do instant premiere.
Oh, well,
no, don't. Just put it public and save.
I'm new to this.
If you do, yeah, you don't want to do instant premiere right now.
Okay, so hold on. Set as premiere. No, good, done. Schedule. Sure.
No, just hit visibility, public, save.
Oh, there we go. I see. Yes.
Yeah.
We're good. Okay, let's see. Here we go. The video, I'll just tell you right now what the video is. I say in the description a little bit, but Tom Cruise did Scientology threw a super expensive birthday party, and I'll probably do a video about the party, or we could do a video about the party, whatever.
Either way.
But they spent several hundred thousand. Scientology spent several $100,000 throwing a birthday party for Tom Cruise on their cruise ship. That's kind of funny. That's probably why they did it, because they're going to have a birthday party for Tom Cruise on a cruise ship. I never thought about it that way before. Anyway, they threw a party for him on this cruise ship they have called the Free Winds. And they played all of the songs from all of his hit movies, the Golden Era Musicians, which is Scientology's in-house, one of Scientology's in-house music groups. They're all Sea Org members, the Golden Era Musicians. And they performed all of the hits from all of his movies. And then the very last song was Old Time Rock and Roll, and Tom Cruise performed it with this this woman named Stacey Francis. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of hers either. I'm less of a fan of hers than I am of Elizabeth Moss. Anyway, Stacey Francis also not the best Tom Cruise cover band, Tom Cruise cover singer, whatever you want to call it. But right after that performance, David Miscavige and Shelley Miscavige and all these people, they went backstage after the birthday party, and then they congratulated Tom Cruise on having a birthday, and they're all clapping. Anyway, one of the people that was there recorded this on a tiny little cell phone camera, and this is back in 2004. And you can actually see kind of Dave and Tom behind the scenes yucking it up. And so
Mark,
that's the video. Yeah,
they're Tom Cruise and David Miscavige are giggling like a couple of schoolgirls. It's so cringe.
It is. And Tom, from doing that one song, he looks like he ran a marathon. He's literally got sweat all the way down the middle of his chest from doing one song. He did do the splits in that song.
He must have changed or something, because in the video with Stacey Francis, when he's singing, he's wearing like a button-down shirt. But then when he's standing next to Miscavige, he's wearing like a green T-shirt.
Yeah, maybe he took off the shirt. Or this could have been, they had 2 of these parties for him. But this is from the first one. I'm positive it's from the first one, because the person that got me the video, he escaped before the second one. So he also might have been wearing an undershirt. I don't know. I'm not, but either way, he is a sweaty man in the video. That is evident. I'm looking at it right now. Anyway, go look at that video. It's up on my channel. And don't forget to subscribe.
Don't go look at it
when we're done
now.
When we're done. When we're done, go over there. You could put a link to that in the end of this video. You could put a link to that video.
Yes, I'll redirect to that if I can. I'll do that while you're talking.
One.
People will complain that I'm not paying attention to what you're saying, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so look, let's go back to this question. Love the background. What is your top Depeche Mode song?
Oh, I don't have a top song. That's like picking your favorite child. So don't do that.
What's wrong with that?
What? Well, we know which one's your favorite. Don't pretend.
No, they all take turns.
They all take turns being your favorite. That's a good point.
Sure.
Mine do as well. I'm particularly fond of not one of them right now.
Yeah, it's not which one's your favorite. It's they take turns. Who's the least favorite at the moment?
Oh my goodness, these kids.
No, so wait, are all three of your kids named after Depeche Mode songs, or just two?
No, just the first one.
Just the first one? Just
Yeah, Kale.
Kaleid?
Kaleid is the B side of a Depeche Mode song. It's actually, gosh, what is it? It's on Policy of Truth. It's a Depeche Mode song. On the B side, there's a song named Kaleid, and my child's name, my firstborn, is called Kaleid. Anyway, but yeah, no, I don't have a favorite pick. I guess you can see that what those are. I thought it was in the background enough that you couldn't actually see, couldn't make out. I guess that Playing the Angel album is pretty distinctive. Anyway, but that is a video for another day. That's a Depeche Mode video. Because that cabinet is pretty amazing as far as.
All right, so here's the next question. Did it surprise you guys that Marty turned on you?
I was surprised. I genuinely was surprised.
When did you first find out that something was afoot with Marty?
I remember I was actually talking. I think I was talking with Mike, and Mike was like, "Oh, I don't know what's up with Marty. He kind of went dark, and he wasn't answering emails and he wasn't answering calls, and I was really surprised. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, no one's heard from Marty in months." And I go, "I talked to him like a week ago." So I was actually still kind of talking with him, and yeah, I didn't know anything about it. And then when I emailed him like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then he never answered me. So I was like, "Oh, well, I guess that was the last of it." And then within a few months of that, these videos started popping up of him talking smack about Mike or Leah or me or you or whoever. And then I was like, "Oh, I guess the rumors might be true." And but yeah, I was genuinely surprised because I don't know, man. I just couldn't see him going back after everything that he'd done. I didn't think you could go back from that.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's not working for them. He's not participating in anything that they're doing. I think there was just some sort of deal that was made. And I don't even know. I mean, I don't know anything about what the deal was, but obviously it included talking smack about a bunch of people. That was certainly part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know about any financial compensation, or I don't know what else ended up going down, but.
So I just remember that this was right around the time when Going Clear, the documentary was coming out. And you guys had already gone to, what was the film festival you guys went to?
Sundance.
You guys had already done the Sundance thing. Marty wasn't there, right?
No. Marty, that was just Mike. Trying to think who was there. It was Mike.
But that's fine. But Marty wasn't there.
And a bunch of people. Yeah, Marty wasn't there.
But why wasn't he there?
I don't think he was in the movie. Was he in the movie? In Going Clear? I think
it was the Louis Theroux one that he was in.
So look, yeah, that's right. That was happening at the same time, and Marty and I are both in that Louis Theroux movie, and yeah, I don't know if Marty. I can't remember if Marty's in Going Clear.
So, but here's what I was saying is that for me, it was around the time of when Going Clear was being screened at the Directors Guild. I had gone to New York with Mike for that event, and Marty was supposed to be there. And I was excited because it's the first time I was going to see Marty in person since we'd both left the Sea Org. And Mike expected him to be there. He was supposed to be staying at the same hotel that we were staying at. We go to check into the hotel, and Marty's like, he just didn't come. He just texted Mike, yeah, I'm not coming, and with no explanation. And that for me, so whenever that was, I lose track of the years. What is it? 2015, 2016, something like that. Whenever Going Clear came out, but that was the first time that I was like, oh, something's really weird. And then when it actually came out officially, Marty put up a blog post shitting on the documentary, and I was like, what the hell? So I mean, it was a surprise in the sense that no one really would have expected that from him. But in retrospect, is anything Marty does really a surprise? Like, he was a very volatile, sort of mentally unstable person, and sometimes he's doing things that are going in the right direction, and sometimes he's doing things that are going in the wrong direction. And he was like that even when he was in RTC and in Scientology. I mean, is that not accurate?
Yeah, he was
pretty much a wild card all the time.
Yeah, he was part motherfucker from the beginning. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we kind of talk about in that Louis Theroux movie. Is one time he punched me in the face while I was getting a sec check. Like, I was getting security checked by this girl, and I wasn't answering the questions the way Marty wanted me to answer the questions, saying that I basically did not admit to doing this thing that Dave Miscavige said I did. And I was like, I didn't do that. And this was going on for hours. And then he was like, we're going to take a break. And he actually was in the room while I was getting the sec check, or they call it an ethics interview. Anyway, and we went out, we left the room, and we went in the back, and I thought we were going to have a conversation. And he just punched me, and he just cold cocked me right in the face. And I was like, what the fuck? And then he said, why don't you go back in there and tell her what she wants to hear? And she was standing right next to me, the girl. And there was another girl standing right next to me. And they were both from RTC. So they were all from RTC. Marty and these two girls were all from RTC. And the girl that was sec checking me was from RTC. And the other girl was supposed to report back to Miscavige, whatever was happening. Anyway, I knew both of the girls really well. And one of them started crying. One of the girls started crying when Marty punched me. Like, she got upset. I was like, what are you fucking crying for? I'm the one who just got punched in the face. Anyway, but so then we went back in there, and Marty was standing right there, and I said, he can punch me as many times as he wants. I ain't answering the question different from what happened, and then we were done. But so Louis asked Marty that in the movie. How did it feel punching Marc Headley in the face?
Isn't that one of the things that kind of annoyed Marty?
No, actually, that was kind of a funny thing. Well, because what happened was, so I'm pretty sure that Louis was trying to kind of wind Marty up. And so he would ask him the same questions over and over and over again, and just see if he would answer them differently. And this had been going on for weeks, and they were doing it on camera. And they're driving in the car, and Louis asks another question to Marty that he's answered a million times. And then Marty gets really pissy, and he goes, listen, you have asked me the multiple questions over and over again. Why don't you ask me something you haven't asked me? And let's stop messing around. And it gets very tense because Marty is a very kind of ominous figure. And he's big too. He's not a small guy. Anyway, it gets really tense, and Louis is thinking, and then Louis, he just goes, "Oh, okay. I know a question I haven't asked you. How did it feel when you punched Marc Headley in the face?" Because he had interviewed me the day before, and I told him the story about. He's like, "Hey, have you ever, Marty, right?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I know him. He punched me this one time." Anyway, so then Louis goes, "How was it punching Marc Headley in the face?" And you think, "Oh, Marty's going to punch you in a second, Louis." It's very, very, you can cut the tension with a knife. And then Marty kind of laughs. He goes, "Oh, it hurt. That dude's built like a tank." And that was it. And it kind of let all the air out of out of the tension. But anyway, Marty also, what's really funny is I tell that story about Marty punching me in the face. And if Marty was around when I tell it, then Marty would be like, well, hold on, let's not gloss over the fact that you messed me up pretty bad one time. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, the time you threw me against a wall. And I'm like, the time I threw you against a wall? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, Marty, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, when we were doing musical chairs in the hole up at Int. And I'm like, what? Anyway, supposedly there's a whole thing, it's in my book. I think it's also in it's an abbreviated version of it is in the Going Clear movie. But we were basically all fighting to be able to stay at the international headquarters. And whoever got the last chair in a game of musical chairs was going to get to stay. And everybody else out of like 100 people or 50 people or how many ever people it was going to get kicked out of the property. And Dave played Bohemian Rhapsody and we were whatever. Anyway, evidently, according to Marty, I still have no recollection of this, but apparently him and I were throwing down for a chair. And I just grabbed him and threw him against the wall and took his fucking chair. And supposedly he had to go to the chiropractor after that. I was like, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think you would remember that. Because also it implies that Marty lost that game of musical chairs, and that you'd remember that. All right. Anyway, the next question here says, thanks for all you do with regards to the Aftermath Foundation. Has the Aftermath Foundation helped anyone outside of the U.S.? Yes, absolutely. We have. In fact, we just helped someone in Australia who was leaving Scientology. And that's an incredible story that I'm sure you'll hear about eventually. Okay.
If they contact us, it doesn't matter where they are, we will try to figure them out. Get them back, get them here, get them there, wherever they need to go. How Squid Gamey of Scientology. Oh yeah, you have no idea. That's just one thing. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm reading all these things.
If you see a good one, let me know.
I do. I see Angela Cully. It's not really a Scientology question, but yes, I have reached out to Baba Booey and I think Mamet. I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, if you got a hookup on that, Angela, yeah, let me know. I can fix it, no problem. The problems that he has are silly problems that should not still be problems. I hear about it all the time.
Oh, does he regularly talk about it on the air, his problems?
He does. He has like one of these, it's very common for people that have a lot of money to have a lot of problems with their super high-end AV systems because they're so customized. But I don't know if he's just a drama queen, but Howard Stern seems to always have problems with his Apple TV. Like that's the thing he has a problem with.
I wonder if Angela knows that you literally listen to Howard Stern all day long. It's either Howard Stern or Depeche Mode, and it's never anything else other than those two things.
That is pretty true, actually, now that I think of it. How do you know that?
Because when I was in your shop with you, it's Howard Stern all the time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, at the shop, it's just playing. I like to have something playing in the background. And yeah, so I usually put it on Howard, and then once I've heard the Howard show for the day, and then I flip over to the mode. I sometimes listen to that Richard Blade, whatever it is, First Wave. Is Scientology like Severance? I hope you've seen it. Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Scientology is 100% like Severance, but you never get to go to the real world. You are always in Severance. Severance is like just the work part is like Scientology, and there is no other part. You're always in the bubble. You have no idea what's happening in the real world.
Yeah, the fact that their entire existence in the work world in Severance is just purely motivated by hitting the numbers. There's nothing else. And the fact that in the show they sort of, they sever, for those who don't know what the show is, they have some procedure done in their brain where when they're outside of work, they don't remember anything from inside of work, and when they're inside of work, they don't remember any part of their life outside of work. So for all intents and purposes, they're two separate people, and yet the work experience is very much like Scientology, to where they're even interrogated for wrongdoings on a machine, and they're asked the same question over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's very Scientology.
I'm sure Ben Stiller, he knows that it is too. I don't think that he doesn't know. I'm pretty sure Ben Stiller knows it's totally Scientology. Like, what does that say? What is David Miscavige pishing in the law? I like those. There's another one that said they didn't. Oh gosh, I wish I would have saved it. It was so good. It was something like, I didn't know the J.C. Penney's Young Men's collection was still available. Dave Miscavige is modeling it. Something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was so good.
So what is David Miscavige's
Oh, Gap for
position?
Kids. Gap for Kids makes suits. What is it?
What is David Miscavige's position in the Lollipop Guild?
I didn't know they had positions.
Founding member? Senior Lollipop holder?
I think he would be in conflict resolution, don't you think?
Well, his position is the same as in the Sea Org. His position is Captain Miscavige of the Lollipop Guild.
You know what's so funny is that, a lot of legal cases have they're kind of like trying to pierce the armor of David Miscavige. And they say, oh, well, he's the captain. That means he's in charge of this thing, of the Sea Organization. But legally, the Sea Organization, it doesn't exist. It's not a legal... There's no legal designation of it. It doesn't actually exist anywhere on paper. The Sea Organization is not a thing.
Right.
And so he's the captain of nothing. And then you go, well, but he's the chairman of the board. No, he's not. He's actually not even on the board. So
well, actually, Mark, this gets really interesting though, because even currently in the labor trafficking lawsuit, Baxter and Paris versus David Miscavige et al.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for the latest hearing, and they're talking about Sea Org members and the clergy, and and their ministers, and it would be interesting for one of the attorneys in the case to maybe go, well, what is this clergy that you speak of?
Yeah, what
does
clergy?
It exist? How can you call it the clergy if it doesn't legally exist?
Exactly. It doesn't have any legal standing. It's on paper. It's nothing. It's a symbolic thing, just like the Sea Org contract. It's not really a contract. It's just a symbolic gesture. So you're like, okay, so then David Miscavige is the captain of nothing? Because he's certainly not the chairman of any board, because he's not even on the board. So you're like, what is this guy like? He literally doesn't have a job. He's not on the board, and he's not the captain. So what does he do? Like how?
Right.
I just think it's really funny. I didn't even know that he wasn't on the board until I think I was talking to Mike or somebody, and he was like, he's not even on the board. And I was like, that's right. I've seen those board documents, and it's a bunch of people that you wouldn't really know in the Sea Org. There's like some attorneys on there, and some of the RTC people, like I think Warren McShane is the president, and this guy Lyman Spurlock was something. But David Miscavige he's not even on the paperwork.
Right.
Okay.
But Scientologists do think he's on the board. They don't know that he's not.
And Mark they don't bad at math because he was raised in a cult.
It's a joke. I always say it in my videos. I always go, I'm not good at math, you guys. I was raised in a cult.
Oh, is Mark bad at math since he was raised in a cult? I'm actually pretty decent at math.
So am I. It's just a funny joke.
Okay, David sorry, I interrupted you.
David Miscavige equals Lord Farquad from Shrek.
Yeah, no, it's there's true. Another show. No, I'll tell you, you got to see this one. Andor. Have you seen Andor? It's a Star Wars show on Disney. There is a gal on there. She's like, she works for the Empire, but she's like Jenny DeVocht, the perfect Jenny DeVocht.
Oh yeah.
Who's like a big Sea Org executive. And the guy who's her boss is a great David Miscavige. Like he just lights people up. That's his job. He just lights people up and puts them on the, takes them out, fires them, moves them to another job just based on their meeting stuff.
Mark, will Claire ever tell her whole story in a book or a series of interviews or such? My parents actually just looked at an apartment in Stonelands, former Sea Org berthing, where I think she once lived.
Claire did live at the Stonelands, but I don't know. Claire, that's up to Claire. I don't know what she wants to do. She's talked about it, but I don't know. She's busy. She's got stuff to do, especially from me. Anyway, but subscribe to Mark's YouTube channel called Blown for Good. I always thought Les Grossman was David. No, he's too nice.
Where does it say that?
It's Amy Green. I always thought Les Grossman was David. No. What is the weirdest? I was thinking about this the other day. What is the
weirdest punishment you guys ever had to do? Any scrubbing dumpsters with a toothbrush?
Scrubbing, scrubbing stuff with toothbrushes it wasn't the worst thing. The dumpsters were pretty bad. Toilets were bad, but I had to scrub the kitchen, the galley floor with a toothbrush one time when I got in trouble at the Int Base. And I was happy to do it because I wasn't doing whatever else I was doing that was miserably horrible. What is the worst thing? I think the weirdest was when we had these big giant ponds at the Int Base, and they were called aeration ponds, and they take the sewer and they pump it into like a pond about as big as a football field, and it has a fountain. And it just aerates the pond. That's why it's called an aeration pond. Anyway, when those get so much poo in them that they can't aerate, they're like just poo. They let them dry out. And then they take a dozer and they take all the poo out, and then they kind of spread it somewhere like fertilizer. Well, David Miscavige was like, what's the worst punishment we could think of for these guys? And the people that were the people that had the worst jobs in the world would constantly be asked, like, hey, could these guys do this instead of you? And of course, those guys are like, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so they asked one of the guys that would do this with the dozer. They said, oh, they could empty the poo out of the dry poo out of the aeration ponds. And then they're like, well, don't you do that with a dozer? And he's like, yeah, but they could just do it by hand. And so we had to do it by hand. So it's probably, I want to say 100, maybe 150 of us were in there with buckets, like Home Depot buckets, just scooping the poo. And then we did a bucket brigade. And then we'd pass the buckets outside of the pond, and somebody would dump them. And then we just did that for days and days. We didn't have masks. We didn't have any kind of gear. We were just in the poo. And it was dry. It was like dirt, but it was still poo. You could smell that it was poo. And at the end of the day, we had to do it it was a punishment detail. So we just had to do it all day, every day. And when it was all done, like when I got off of doing it, they were still people doing it, but I was excused. Like I basically, whatever punishment was supposed to happen, it was like I was deemed, okay, you're worthy again. You can come back. And that night when I took a shower, it was washing out of my pores. The poo dust was like, I was clean, but I was standing in the shower and brown water was coming off of me for like 5 minutes to get all the poo out of me.
That's pretty gross.
That was pretty weird.
That's pretty gross.
Being in the poo sounds like a good summary of being in the Sea Org. Yeah, pretty much. We're in the poo.
I saw one that I was going to select, and now I can't find it.
That goes so fast.
Oh, here's one. Here's one. How many offshoot cults are you aware come from Scientology, i.e., Econar, Est, Nexium? So the ones that I know right off the top of my head is Est, Landmark, and Nexium. And I say inspired by Scientology, but the truth is they could all themselves also have some sort of common inspiration. Est specifically came from Scientology. Landmark specifically came from Est. Nexium seems heavily influenced by Scientology, but honestly may have also come from Est and Landmark, and that might be why it seems so similar to Scientology. I know that. Are you not familiar with Est or Landmark?
I am. No, I was just laughing at one guy who said he washed pots for 16 hours and it gave him valuable life lessons. I was like, what? And then a bunch of people are jumping on him like, are you a Scientologist? Well, he was washing pots at the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, so I'm pretty sure he was, because there's not a lot of non-Scientologists washing pots. Yes, I am familiar with Est, and I am familiar with Landmark and Nexium, and I think you're right. I think Nexium is probably, I mean, there, if you watch that documentary, you can tell right off the bat that dude probably stole, I would say 75% of Nexium is Scientology, just kind of reworked a little bit. Like he came up with new names and stuff, but it's the same playbook pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. Has anyone that the both of you have known for years and considered hardcore Scientologist ask you for help getting out? No names, just curious. Keep up the great work you're doing. The people I have not the people who've asked the foundation for help, I have not known priorly. Is priorly a word?
Yeah. Previously.
So, and realize not everyone who leaves the Sea Org or leaves Scientology needs help or wants help. So I think it's fair to say that I did not know any of these people previously. Have you known any of the people previously?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody. I think all the people that we've helped are from different. So in the Sea Org, they have what's called a Sea Org base. So I was at the Int Base, the international base. There's a LA base or PAC base, Pacific Area Command. That's in LA. There's a UK base, an EU base. So almost all of the people that we've helped were from other bases. So, and I didn't really I've only spent maybe a few months or weeks at any one of those other bases. So yeah, I didn't, I don't think I've known anybody that we've actually helped in the Sea Org. I didn't know them previously.
Okay, next question here. Mark, I blew from the Hemet RPF in 1982 when security guards changed shifts. Yeah. It was not completely fenced then. When was all the perimeter fencing completed?
The perimeter fencing was probably completed in the late 80s, early 90s, because I remember when I got there was chain link fence that went all the way around the property. And when I was there in the early 90s, we were swapping that out with metal, steel fences and putting the ultra barrier, which is kind of like this super, super high-end razor wire that you put on top of fences. And so, yeah, I would say late 80s, and then it was kind of upgraded. Throughout all of the 90s, we upgraded. So the entire perimeter of the property has steel fences with razor wire, or what's called ultra barrier, and you can't get in and you can't get out. Oh, that's the other thing. The ultra barrier is facing in. So if you're in the inside trying to get out, that's when the ultra barrier is going to mess you up the most. If you're trying to break in from the outside, the ultra barrier is wouldn't jack you up so much.
So Mark, is that just an example of the people installing the fence being completely incompetent and installing it backwards?
No. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I think you don't really see that it's got, I mean, they might have changed it by now too, but Yeah. It's
Well,
fully
here's
it's
what would be
fully
interesting.
fenced in. That's the point of that's the answer to the question. It's fenced in now. And it is but that's not all. Not only is it fenced in, but when we upgraded to the steel fences, we put in ground microphones. So if anything over 50 pounds is walking anywhere near a fence, it sets off an alarm. We put like football stadium lights on the fence all along the perimeter. So when they see, when the main security booth sees a ground mic, or they also on the fences, we have these things called fence shakers. So there's like a mercury inside of a little switch, and if the fence is shaked, then this thing trips and it sets off an alarm. So if they get a ground, and also there's cameras. There's super high res cameras, video cameras all around the property too. So if there's a ground mic alarm, a fence shaker alarm, or they see something on the camera, they can light up an area of the perimeter. That's what it's called at the property. They call it the perimeter. They can light up the perimeter, and you can see this when these lights go on. You can see it from the two nearby towns. Like, that's how bright it is. Like, if you're in town and they light up the entirety of the perimeter, you can Southern California Edison can see that Golden Era turned their lights on. That's how bright the lights are. Like, the power company's like, oh, what's happening out there? Like, they even have to not turn on all the lights at the same time because it takes so much power to run the amount of, it's literally like turning on multiple stadiums worth of lights.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Okay, what was the harshest reality you had to face when you left the church and joined reality? Please give the super chat to your foundation. So we're going to answer this question, but just seriously, if you want to donate money to the foundation, donate money to the foundation. Don't donate money to the channel and ask the money to be given to the foundation. But go ahead,
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. What's your answer to the question, Mark?
Well, when you leave, so that's another this is a great question, because this is why a lot of people don't leave. Because if you leave, it says for both of you, what was the harshest reality you had to face when you left the church and joined reality? Well, no one that you know in your life you can ever talk to again. That's pretty harsh. Like, everyone, your family, your coworkers, like, you basically have to start your life over from scratch. You know nobody, you have to start over. That's the harshest reality is. Luckily for me, my dad wasn't a Scientologist. So when I left, I could talk to him. But he was the only person in the real world. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Besides some cousins and stuff like that, he was the only person that I knew in the real world, in reality, as this person says. So
yeah,
that's pretty harsh.
Is also one of the only answers, really, aside from, unless you're talking about coming to terms with Scientology being a bunch of bullshit, because, in my case, for example, I was already living in the real world when I left Scientology, and had been for many years. And I was living in the real world way before I joined the Sea organization. Being a staff member in Scientology, you very much live in the real world and have to deal with all sorts of the real world problems. I had a real world job outside of Scientology. I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield. I worked for the Philadelphia Orchestra. I once worked for GlaxoSmithKline, the pharmaceutical company, as like a temp in HR. I didn't even know it was a pharmaceutical company. And then I told someone, and they were like, you might want to reconsider that.
You work for Big Pharma.
So
that's awesome.
So I think of this question in terms of what did you have to sort of confront leaving Scientology that you'd been like, sort of been working for this scam the whole time. That's how I interpret the question. But you interpret it probably, well, but you and I both, like, when you left the Sea Org, you had real world skills.
Well, I didn't know that.
but you had real world skills.
I kind of had to adapt. I had to kind of reconfigure what I knew how to do for the real world. I had to learn a lot to kind of do what I did there in the real world as a business. I couldn't just go right. I couldn't just transition right over.
Right.
Also, that's a really good question. I didn't know how to start a company. I didn't know how to do anything in the real world that it would make it so I could use those skills, though. That was the part. You kind of don't know. Like, there was no Aftermath Foundation when we left. So even if we did have some trouble with something, we just had to figure it out or find our way. But like Claire had nothing. I don't think she really had any job that transfers to the real world. So she was good with people and she could do things, but she didn't really have any. I mean, she became a waitress when we left because that's like, well, how hard can it be? Bring the food from there over to here. You're going to have to try that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about any other Harshest realities. When I left and was like, I'm out of here, I pretty much decided that Scientology was bullshit. So I didn't have to, when I got to the real world, everybody that I talked to just reaffirmed that, yeah, that was the correct decision. It's bullshit. Good thing I'm sorry you were the last to find out.
Yeah. So it's interesting though that, like, let's take Claire, for example. Her skills were in essence her work ethic and her people skills. And I would argue also the willingness to jump in and do literally whatever needed to be done without feeling like it was somehow beneath her. That's an interesting thing, because it's even your most senior Sea Org executive could be a senior executive today and could be washing dishes tomorrow. There's no part of the Sea Org experience that gives you a very big head about who you are and what you're willing to do. It's one of the reasons many Sea Org members, I think they would leave the Sea Org and just immediately take whatever is the closest, easiest labor related job. I consider waitressing. I'm including that in like labor, right?
Sure.
Or
work.
Office
no,
work.
It's
or
work
whatever.
for sure. It's not.
But
I
willing
wouldn't
to start at the
down.
bottom is what I mean. Willing to just start at the bottom and sort of work your way, hopefully up. Because I mean, weren't they offering Claire the manager position after like a week or two, where she started waitressing?
It was a few weeks, but yes, she started, and very quickly it was like assistant manager. I was like, wow, this seems a lot easier than people are making it out to be. She got promoted in 1 month.
Yeah, and now she has her own business and other things.
Yeah.
So let's see. I don't know. I try to keep these to roughly an hour.
Yeah, well, we're right about there. We got to get. Let me see. Let's see if anybody. On my Twitter, it does say Baba Booey. Oh no, it doesn't say that anymore. I thought it did. So maybe somebody else knows I'm a Stern fan and a Depeche Mode fan some other way. I'm trying to look and see. Oh, here it is. I was trying to see where my channel is to see if anybody's subscribed. I don't know. Oh, maybe I got to refresh. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I got some subscribers. You know what I think I'm going to do is every 1,000 subscribers I get on my channel, I'm going to pick somebody who's around 1,000. And I'm going to, I'll message them and send them a signed hard copy of my book.
Nice.
So,
well, look, we got 800 people watching right now. Mark has 200 YouTube subscribers. All 800 of you, I implore you, please. So here's the thing. I think
there's 1,000 right there.
I think, yeah, if 800 people subscribed, you'd be close to 1,000. Mark has some never before seen secretly recorded footage of Tom Cruise and David Miscavige on the Freewinds ship immediately after Tom Cruise's famous birthday party where he's horribly singing that song with Stacey Francis and just looking like the whitest white boy that's ever been. I mean, I don't know. I thought Tom would have had some better some chops on him, some better dance moves. It was pretty bad. But and Mark's going to be doing a whole lot of, he's going to be working on growing his channel content wise. So I told him coming on and doing these AMAs with me is a great way to grow the subscriber count. So
yeah.
Don't make a liar out of me, please.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, cool. Well, let's see. I just make sure I'm not missing anything here.
Ooh, somebody put a big old.
Is that a brand new super chat here? Let's do this one.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh, Goldie. Do Scientologists believe LRH is now 15 years old, having died in 86 and taking a 21-year hiatus? No, the 21-year hiatus was for him to grow up in his body. Yeah. Well, not to go off to Target 2 for 21 years, and should show up any day now. It's still within the realm of reasonableness for them. Well, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, he was supposed to show up, and I've mentioned this many times before, but L. Ron Hubbard was supposed to show back up in like 2007. He's late. Like he missed a bus or like a connecting flight or something somewhere. He was supposed to show back up and report for duty. So, yeah, they put. Do they believe he's now? Yeah, no, they 100% believe that. They, at the international headquarters, they were putting out his clothes the night before, like the clothes he's going to wear tomorrow. And now this is the part where there's this cognitive dissonance that's so strong, because if you think about it, and I never thought about it until I left, but so they're putting out his clothes on his bed for him to wear tomorrow. So if he shows up, he's got a set of clothes to wear. But the clothes they're putting out are his 70-year-old fuddy-duddy clothes from his previous life. So what's new guy supposed to do? New guy's supposed to just show up and put on old fuddy-duddy clothes from the 1970s? I don't know. There's something not right here. They
Mark, that fact is why, and real quick, I'm going to actually try to post, Mark, if you can, post the actual link to your channel in the chat. Your channel's very hard to find on YouTube, even when you search.
Well, yeah, because it's.
So Mark, the fact that they always put out his 1970s clothes, which also he was fat L. Ron Hubbard when he died. So they're putting out fat man clothes, 1970s clothes, is why I've always, when I heard that story, go, yeah, but that was just like a ceremonial thing. They didn't really expect him to walk in the door, right? Otherwise, they'd put in some nice clothes that maybe a normal 21-year-old or 30-year-old might fit in, not fat old 1970s L. Ron Hubbard. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, it's all bullshit no matter what. When you're dead, you're dead. You're warm food. That's that. So I don't think Fatty is coming back. That's done. I think that ship has sailed when they cremated him so they couldn't do an autopsy because he had psych drugs in his body. So when they did that, that was the end of that, because anybody could have dug him up and done an autopsy and found out that he was filled up with all these, drugs to try to make him not crazy. Okay. So, but now, if he comes back, I don't know. I don't know if the clothes thing just seems like a giant waste of time, because if he comes back, he's probably not going to want to wear those clothes. And if he comes back, he's probably not going to fit those clothes. So whoever's putting those clothes out, if you're watching this video, just don't do that shit. You're not going to get in trouble because he ain't here to yell at you.
Mark, just the silliness of going, hey, Ron, we built you a new $25 million mansion, but we saved your freaking clothes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They tore down the old mansion that he had. So he would, if he shows up and he's like, I see the clothes. I see my rank, my what did he have, like a Land Cruiser or a Land Rover, and I see my Toyota, and I see all this stuff, and I see my Bluebird motorhome. But what did you do to my house? Oh, we bulldozed that. It's like, what? You bulldozed the house, but you kept my drawers? Like, I don't know. I'm telling you, I tell you, Dave Miscavige is making this shit up as he goes. Who in the world would put out an old dead dude's clothes every night? It doesn't make sense to me. That is a weird thing that just sticks with me. Anyway, I don't think they really know. In the Sea Org, they think L. Ron Hubbard is on another planet, or what they call Target 2. But some of those Sea Org members think he's coming back because he wrote to somebody saying he was going to come back. So, I don't know. Right. Yeah, right. I put the link in there a bunch of times.
Hey, the more the merrier. Everybody just keep posting the link, and then people will see it in the chat, in the replay. It is unbelievable. Even searching "Blown for Good" Marc Headley on YouTube will not get you your YouTube channel in the search results because your SEO is so bad on it for some reason.
Well, it's I've never had anything there.
I hear you.
I just put it up there to put up a video 5 years ago. I didn't even think of it would do anything. I just needed somewhere to stick it.
Well, you know where you can stick it.
I know where I can stick it now. Oh, it's on. Okay. You know what? It shows up on Google search results. The Tom Cruise and David Miscavige video shows up right there.
Is that right?
Under Blown for Good. It says Tom Cruise and David Miscavige secretly recorded on Scientology cruise ship. Anyway, it shows up for me. Maybe it's because this is my results are very heavily skewed to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but either way, it's up there. And I can't do Mondays with Mark because I'm traveling for work. So I will be gone all next week, and I won't have this fancy setup. I'll be at some hotel, and I guarantee I'll have horrible quality audio and video, and I'm not doing it. Because that one guy that commented on the last video I did with you, that was it. He sealed the deal for me. I said, okay, fine. I'll set up another studio. I'm not going to do another video with Aaron because I get screwed every time by whatever the reason
Starlink internet.
Hopefully this is not the problem. Hopefully this one turns out good and the quality is good.
Yeah, this one's turned out great. Now I got to get my setup so my camera's not shaking every time I laugh. I thought this was going to work out. It's crap.
You can't have the camera in the same thing as the table. It's got to be totally separate.
Yeah.
Totally separate.
Okay, last one, just because it's there. Is there really a billion-year contract? So what it is, you guys, is for the Sea Org specifically. It's just a commitment to work for the Sea Org for the rest of your life. The way you know they don't take this billion-year contract completely seriously in terms of enforcing it in future lives is they don't even enforce it in the present life. People leave the Sea Org all the time. So it's a commitment to a Sea Org member when they join the Sea Org is supposed to intend to do it for the rest of their life. And no one does. And that's why the Aftermath Foundation exists, so that we can help people who are leaving the Sea Org. And we help people even who aren't Sea Org members. So yeah, that is the last super chat. And thank you all for joining us. I'll get this all squared away with chapter breaks and everything so people have an easier time.
Wait, I think you might have to do this other chat.
They didn't put a question on there.
Oh, you're right. Well, thanks, Rick.
But I'll do it anyway. Rick Elkins, that's probably the biggest super chat I've ever seen on one of my live streams. Thank you, Rick. That's very generous of you.
Super chat I've ever seen. Who's doing that?
There was another big one, like $20, but they didn't put a question, so I didn't put it up there.
Oh, I think I know that guy.
Anyway, how do you know Rick Elkins?
Oh, sorry, it's a different Rick. There's another Rick that subscribed. Look at you. You got some ballers in this chat here. Look at that. Just stacking them up.
Oh, wait. Here's one for you.
Sticker.
Here's one for you. I don't see your YouTube channel listed on your Twitter account. Oh, that would be good for you to do. It may help to add it there on Facebook and LinkedIn and everything.
That's a great idea. I got to get on that.
Yeah. Okay, well, if we don't end it now, we'll never get out of here.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks a lot. Go over and subscribe. Blown for Good, YouTube. It's in the link. I'll put another one here. Here you go.
Oh, and you know what I'll do, Mark? Once this is all said and done, I will put the link to the channel in the description down below.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.